What's up, everybody? Jackson Galaxy, your cat daddy here. If you missed the September 2020 cat camp, you missed a great Ask Me Anything between me and Hannah Shaw, and moderated by our good friend Chris Gutierrez, who runs Cade, a wonderful cat cafe in Chicago. Check it out if you can, if you're in town. In the meantime, when you cut me and Hannah loose, it's sometimes chaotic, sometimes a little crazy, and always a lot of fun. So check it out. Chris had his hands full the other day. I hope you like it. Let us know in the comments if you liked it as well and what you'd like to see in the next cat camp. All right, light, love, and mojo to you. Have fun with this one.
Well, hello. I'm Christopher Gutierrez. I'm the co-founder and director of the Cade Rescue and Cat Cafe that I run with my partner Shelly in Chicago, and I will be hosting this AMA between the illustrious Jackson Galaxy and my wonderful friend Hannah Kitten Lady Shaw. If you are unfamiliar with Hannah Shaw, I'm going to give you a quick introduction. She needs no introduction, but let me read off this extremely long piece of paper here. She's a cat rescuer and one of the loudest voices in animal advocacy, with over 1 million followers on Instagram and on YouTube both. She's a TNR expert, the authority on neonatal kitten care, the founder of her nonprofit, the Orphan Kitten Club, and a New York Times best-selling author. And she's also my friend. Also, along with our little talkie talk is going to be Jackson Galaxy.
Chris, thanks for being here with us.
Oh, thank you for having me and trusting me with this.
I am super excited to be here, and I do have kittens at my feet right here. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at these lovely little ones. This is Kalu, one of my foster kittens. So you'll see kittens popping in and out throughout this session.
Awesome. Well, so listen, we got over 2,000 questions that people wanted to ask you. So obviously we're not going to be able to get to all of them. One of the first questions that someone asked, and that I was actually really curious about, because I don't know, is how did you two meet?
Jackson, do you remember?
Jackson.
I remember the very first time. Do you?
It's actually, it sounds very magical when you put it this way. It was like a marble pink castle house. Remember that? It was like this amazing house, and it was this fundraiser for Best Friends Animal Society, and we had a mutual friend and we met there, and I think we escaped into an interesting little side room, and we just talk, and then we never stopped talking since.
And honestly, and it's funny because people don't really know this much about, I mean, I'm not if I don't have a job to do socially, like at parties and whatever, I'm not good. And Hannah was like my savior, like just sort of took me through. We disappeared. It was all good. Made an appearance, fundraised, everything was cool, and left. So yeah, okay. Hannah saved my life.
Oh no, that was fun. I mean, I think Jackson and I are both we're both extroverts who also sometimes get a little bit overwhelmed maybe by crowds, and we had a great conversation, and then just kept working together after that. A lot of people saw in 2016 we did this big road trip also involving best friends, where we had like 50 kittens in a van, and we drove like 25 hours together. I would say that's when we became really good friends, because you can't go through a 25-hour kitten poop road trip without getting close, right?
No, and again, I'll just say there's always things about Hannah that impress me, but on that road trip, because we had to drive through, we went from California, we hit Utah at some point. At that point, and both of us being vegan, it was at that point, we basically had like candy and stuff in the middle of the van. But in terms of eating, forget about it. There was no place to eat. And Hannah knew how to pull into like some, I don't remember what kind of a restaurant it was, and make them make us some. It was a Denny's, and make them make us something. It was horrible, but you made it happen, and that was important.
You know what's funny is that I remember watching that before I knew either one of you. And I kept thinking, oh, they must have the stage where they put them in a car and they drive like 15 minutes and get like the foot they need and then a little B-roll. And then they hop in like whatever, I don't know, whatever other car, and then they move on to the next thing. So.
No, I can tell you, Jackson, like when I'd be driving Jackson, we'd either like be talking, or you'd have headphones on and be trying to like get some shut eye in the car, in your seat in the car. That's how road trips, that's how it goes. We drove overnight. We saw the sunset. We saw the sunrise. Jackson tried to put water in the tire,
Dude,
and they actually aired that
seriously?
on Animal Planet. No, they aired it on Animal Planet. And I
Yeah,
was like, oh,
it was
okay.
one of those things where it was like, it was late at freaking night, and there was an air hose and a water hose, and they looked alike, man. I was tired,
No shame.
dude.
No shame.
But let me just say,
I would have
it's
done the
funny.
same thing probably.
You posted a picture. I think you posted a picture a couple days ago of the two of us. It was like the sun was coming up at that point. We were at a truck stop, fully, absolutely, that driving all night like you can't even see straight thing, and buying little animal furry hats and playing computer bingo. It was great. It was great. So yeah, Chris, we did the drive. We dealt with kitten poop, put water in tires, and every stinking one of them got home. So that was cool.
I think it was that trip where I mentioned that there was this idea of like doing some kind of event thing that then became you and Christina meeting, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. You're right.
Full circle.
Yeah. It was
an eventful event. Yeah.
So I'm going to move on to a couple more questions that are a little bit more serious. I'm going to direct this one at Hannah first, and then Jackson, I'd like to hear from you as well. But what are the highest impact activities for those with little time to foster or volunteer?
Sure. So I think a lot of people see the work that I do or that Jackson does, and they're like, well, I don't have the time to do all of that. And that's okay. If you don't have time to foster or volunteer, there's a lot of other things that you can do. The quickest one that comes to mind for me is every person has a different network, your friend network, your colleagues. So use your network to spread the word about adoptable cats, because, the people I can reach, you reach somebody different than I do. So follow local shelters and rescue organizations when you see them seeking homes for cats. Just share those with your network, click share, or even send it out to your coworkers. Hey, I saw this cat. Anybody looking for a cat? That can make a big difference. Another easy one is Facebook fundraisers. Facebook fundraisers can do a lot just by using your network of friends and family to, direct some good towards an organization. A big one my nonprofit always needs help with is transport. So even if you just have an hour or 2 hours to give towards, maybe for us, it's like picking up a kitten and taking them to a vet, that can make a world of difference for us. Or going to the shelter and picking up a cat who needs rescue. Transport is a really big way to help. The last thing I would say is just use whatever skill and lifestyle you already have to help cats. So if you're crafty, make crafts for cats. If you're an accountant, I guarantee you there's a local nonprofit who would love your services. You know what I mean? So, use the skills that you have to help in whatever way you can. There's so many different ways to help.
Awesome. I completely agree with everything that you just said. Sign me up for your newsletter. Jackson, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm guilty of it. I think everyone to a certain degree is where you think of, well, I'd like to do this. And then you think of the biggest possible impact that you could have in the whole wide world and how you would have to give over your whole life to it. And just to remember that you don't, like Hannah was just saying about transport, that's such it's kind of a gimme. A lot of TNR trappers would just give their left foot for someone who would just take their cats to their spay appointments and back again. There are small things that everyone can do. And I think that if you ask anyone who's done a small thing, they'll say that small thing resulted in a big thing.
Which leads me to another question, Jackson, actually. What have you learned most about yourself in the last 6 months?
I mean, I definitely learned patience in a way that I don't think I had before. Or if I did, I wasn't constantly working on it. I'm somebody who doesn't sit still very well at all. I learned a lot about my sometimes moves towards perfectionism and how I need to focus on the little things. I've got 7 cats and 3 dogs. We started a life with chickens during the pandemic, and they all need something individually from both me and my wife at a certain point in the day, and giving that to them and slowing down and basically following my own advice, I think has been a big one.
Yeah, this has been a challenging time because like Jackson, I'm usually like, let's go, let's do stuff. And I think what's happened for me is I've really doubled down on the impact I can make in my own community rather than a lot of the work that I usually do is out in, different parts of the country, different parts of the world. And this has been actually a pretty welcome opportunity, I think, for me to be more like on the streets where I live, in the neighborhoods, trapping cats. I think during this time, it's been a time of kind of like looking at what can I do hands-on right now, like what can I do to raise this little baby and make sure he goes to a good place. And that's given me a real sense of purpose during this time. I think that when the world feels out of control, it's good to focus on something that you can make right. I can't make everything in the world right, but for this little baby who came to me covered in fleas and fly eggs as a 1-day-old, I can make that right. This is something I can make right. And that feels really positive for me.
So this is a great question. It's from Katie O'Brien, which I think does a really kind of apply to both of you equally, and just maybe in like different aspects. But I'm going to start with Hannah. Do you feel that bottle raised kittens have a higher risk for behavioral problems later in life? Since they don't get that mama cat training, is there any way to mimic that to prevent issues?
Yeah, this is a really common question when I do my bottle baby workshops. People are like, oh, how do you deal with the bottle baby kitten syndrome? And I really reject that idea, and I'll tell you why. I do think that there's absolutely opportunity for kittens who are bottle raised to have behavioral problems, but I think that the most important thing there is the husbandry. If you are taking care of that kitten and meeting all of their developmental needs, then the kitten is given an opportunity just like if they had a feline mama. There are some important differences, of course. But the thing that I would say is the bigger issue is singleton kittens. So kittens who are not raised with any other cats at all. If I have an orphan and they're solo, the most important thing is to make sure that I get them a friend. So even if I get a 2-week-old foster kitten who's alone, I will tell the shelter, I'm looking for another 2-week-old, and I'm going to quarantine them for 2 weeks so that when they're 4 weeks old, they can be friends with each other. So I think important things are making sure that kitten has feline companionship. If it's not a mom, then another kitten who's the same, around the same age, meeting all of their important needs. So like making sure they're clean is a big one. A lot of foster parents, they feed and they, help them go to the bathroom, but they don't keep them clean. Mom cats keep them very clean. If they're not clean, they don't feel safe. And think about, early childhood experience has a lot of impact on, of course, how we are as adults. And I think the same applies for cats. So make them feel safe. Make them feel clean. If they're cold, make them feel warm. All of those things, and make sure they have feline companionship, I think is very important.
Jackson, I
Yeah,
you generally don't deal with bottle feeding kittens, but you do have made a show 11 seasons out of dealing with behavioral problems. So is there anything that you could add to that?
I don't necessarily, in a lot of ways, I don't think it's necessarily behavioral problems. And I couldn't agree more with Hannah about the need. I mean, it's more about singleton bottle babies than it is about bottle babies in general, that having stand-ins for their siblings, having other cats around to model behavior, especially during this really crucial moment in their life. There's this phase, the critical learning phase, that's approximately 2 to 9 weeks old. These guys learn a ton in that really packed in moment. And if they don't have cats to model their behavior after, it's not that it's necessarily going to be problematic. It's just that it creates more hurdles for them as they get past that phase. The other thing that I think that we have to be really hyper aware of, I would say even more so than kittens who weren't raised bottle babies, is just to remember not to play with your hands, not to encourage things like, blanket wrestling and things like that, because kittens need to remember they need to know how to retract claws, inhibit bites, and things like that. And if we are encouraging them to do that in a very unwitting way, then it's going to continue. They're going to get older. They're going to bite harder. They're going to claw harder, and you're going to get mad. And it was kind of on you in the first place. I think, and Hannah, I think you would probably say that, like, and Chris, you've been around plenty of them, that it's not problems for the most part, it's tics. Like, I see things in cats that were raised bottle babies, and like I said, especially Singletons, where their behavior is sometimes more geared towards humans than it is towards cats. They're seeking us even more than they would other cats. Or I can tell a bottle baby. They could be 9 years old, and I could still, there's things they do. There's tics that they will have that just say, you were raised around more humans than cats,
So I can add to that a little bit. I can tell you, I've raised hundreds of bottle babies, and the feedback from my adopters is, how are these cats so affectionate? They are just so very affectionate towards humans. An observation I've made is that when I have bottle raised kittens versus mom raised kittens, the bottle raised kittens purr a lot more readily for me than the mama raised ones. I think because they see humans as more maternal. But there is some research that Michael Delgado has done about differences in attachments with bottle babies versus mom raised kittens. And the a finding in that was that vocalizations were different when a kitten is left alone. If they have a mom, they're a little more secure. They don't meow as much. If they don't have a mom, they are more vocal. They're more like attention seeking, like, where is somebody? So I think that there's definitely differences, but I think that we can mitigate a lot of those. And I very much agree with you. One important thing is, don't teach them that you are a cat. Teach them that they can play with toys, they can play with their other feline friends, but they're not supposed to play with your feet and hands.
Perfect. Okay, so both of you are very public figures, and people know you, what you're from. And Hannah, you're very public with the amount of kittens that you take in, that you foster. People fall in love with them. They follow them even after they've been adopted out. So this question's for you specifically, which is which kitten or kittens have been the hardest to say goodbye to?
Oh gosh. Well, if you ask me like, oh, are you going to be sad to say goodbye? The thing I always say is like, goodbye is the goal. I'm so happy when they get adopted. And that is true. But what I will say is I get very attached to certain types of kittens. So
what does it take for a kitten to break through and be one of your favorites?
I really like working with mobility challenged kittens a lot. So I recently had a kitten named James who had no hind legs. And I like cried thinking about him leaving. Also, because he was in my bedroom. So like when they're in my bedroom, it's like they're just part of your every moment. Like, I was sleeping with him, and he had all these ramps and steps in the room. But that was hard because that was like, I don't know, over a month ago, and I still wake up sometimes and I'm like, where's James? Where's James? I love that kitten. But I am very glad I get to follow him on social media, and I talk to his adopter all the time, and he just has the best life. I mean, he got such a great home, and he has an opportunity in that home that he wouldn't have here. He has 2 cats and a dog who all love him. He has a whole family of people who just dote on him all day. And I have a lot going on. I have a lot of like animals to tend to. So I'm happy for him. It was hard, but it was like the correct thing to do. And I'm very happy for him. But I think James, definitely, he's the one from this year, he's the one I still think about every day. I've had a lot.
Fluctuate by year.
From this year, it's James, definitely, because James, I just loved him. He went through so much. He really went through a lot. So I think if they go through a lot with me and they're in my bedroom, forget it. I love them.
I love award thing, like favorite kitten of 2016, 2017, little plastic.
It's not a competition. All kittens,
unless it comes to James,
beautiful, but
then he wins.
This guy's pretty spectacular too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Jackson, on My Cat from Hell, which cat was the hardest to work with? Do you have one that sticks out?
Yeah, the one that sticks out for me, and it's only also because, well, there's a lot of becauses, but I was called up to work with this cat named Lux, who was the 911 cat up in Portland. And when I say the 911 cat, that was because it was like, I don't know if it was like Inside Edition or something like that, where it broke originally, where there was this audio footage. I
Oh,
can
I
only laugh about it
remember
because
that.
I was there.
Commercial for that.
Did you ever hear it? Did you the one where it's like it's a guy and his wife and his baby, oh, and the dog. They're all locked in the bathroom
Yeah, I was going to say they
calling
were trapped in a room
911.
or something like that, and they
Yeah, they
called
were locked in the
911.
bathroom while you hear the cat in the background going thump thump on the bathroom door. They were legitimately scared to death. Anyway, they were going to surrender him, and it wasn't going to look good for it. So we went up, and it was one of those things. It was a very last second thing. We had actually just wrapped the season. We were done. It was a 6-month shoot. We were done. And the next day this happened. And the next day I was up there. And the thing about Lux is that he was neurologically damaged in a way that I know it wasn't something he was born with. And I always thought that we were getting over a hump. I got him in this foster home. I got him out of that home, which I think was the first stop, then into a foster home with amazing foster parents who fell in love with him. And then I get the call that he sent one of them to the hospital. Now I got to go back to Portland, and we're going to work with him again. And it kept happening. And it was a real lesson in humility for me, because Lux was who Lux is. He wasn't going to fit in the box that I wanted to put him in. Success meant you were going to live in a home with humans. Be happy, Lux, be happy, and that's not how it went. And I was really fortunate to be able to get him into a wonderful sanctuary where he lived really well for a number of years, and then got adopted by one of his caretakers at the sanctuary. So now is in a home with somebody who understands him. But he was my biggest teacher for sure.
Awesome. Well, hey, this is the end. We only went over a tiny bit. Look at that. Not bad.